This DVD of Say Anything is here not only to remind us of the inevitability of death, but also to remind us that South Park is super fun, and sometimes you have to get back to your little emo heart roots. Today I'm going to be talking about the South Park episode, Raisins. Now this episode and this DVD are related. Can you tell me why? It's a secret, but I'll get to it. This episode opens with the boys playing football. We have a brand new kind of shot. It's shot from the ground up at all their little faces in a huddle. So we already know that we're off to a cinematic adventure. The game is interrupted when Bebe comes over and taps Stan on the shoulder and says, "Winnie breaks up." What? Winnie breaks up with you. I haven't even talked to Winnie for weeks. She says she still wants to be friends. And the boys are like, get out of here. Like, Stan cares if Winnie breaks up. But Stan does care. Stan cares a lot. We have a shot of him in the center just being like heartbroken. We play. Over a montage of him remembering his time with Wendy, and she's no longer there with him. And he's falling into this depression. So Stan is distraught. At first, Stan tries to get Kyle to go talk to Wendy to try to get her back. He goes up to Kyle and he's like, "Kyle, you have to talk to Wendy for me." And Kyle's like, "I don't want to, that's stupid. Go talk to her yourself." And then he's like, "Please, Kyle, this is my life." And so then Kyle goes and talks to Wendy, and then he comes back and he's like, "She says she still wants to be friends and it's nothing about you." And then Stan is like, "Tell her to be more straightforward with me." And he's like, I got science homework to do. This is just me proving I can quote the episode. So then Stan still doesn't want to go talk to Wendy, so he gets Jimmy to go and talk to Wendy, and that goes very poorly. He accidentally just insults her a lot. Sorry, Stan, it's over. So Stan is really depressed now. He's laid up in bed and he's like, there's a sinking feeling in my chest where my heart is. It's broken. And we have a lighting change of it's dark. This is such a great freaking cinematic episode. To cheer him up, Kyle has the idea to take him to Raisins to see that there's other girls out there. Raisins is pretty much just like Hooters, which sounds super weird because they're fourth graders. It's like run by fourth graders for fourth graders, instead of it being for adults by adults. It's kind of like a Chuck E. Cheese Hooters, I would say. How Chuck E. Cheese is like a casino for children. Raisins is Hooters for children, but run by children. It's weird. I don't feel like explaining it more. Suspend your disbelief for a second. Okay? They're off at Raisins. These Raisins girls are very outgoing, and all the boys at every table are pretty much hypnotized by them, how friendly and pretty they are. They're just able to sell them all kinds of stuff, all kinds of food, all kinds of merchandise, all kinds of stuff, and the boys are just like, okay.
I'm glad you guys came in. Everyone in here is such a loser, but you guys seem really cool.
So our boys, the boys, are at the table, the main four and Butters, and maybe Jimmy or something, I don't know. Stan is still grumpy. Kyle calls over a waitress to flirt with him, but he's just not having it. He's just depressed. Butters is really talking to one of the waitresses and thinks that she has a crush on him. But this just makes it worse for Stan. So Stan is like, okay, I need to get Wendy back. I had to figure out a way to do this. I have been going about this the wrong way. I'm gonna finally take proper action. He goes up to a house, but it's Bebe's house. It's not Wendy's house. And he's like, I was having my friends talk to her. I didn't have her friends talk to her. Bebe is giving him advice about how to win her back. Her advice is to go to her house and hold a boombox over his head and play Peter Gabriel. Like in this. Say Anything. It's a cute little Say Anything reference. He goes under the window. He holds up the boombox. He's wearing a little trench coat. And I have to say that this episode did inspire me to go watch Say Anything, and now Say Anything is one of my favorite 80s movies. It's so good. Go watch Say Anything. It's crazy. The second half, you'll never see it coming. Wow. So Stan is standing under Wendy's window with a boombox playing Peter Gabriel, playing Shock the Monkey, I think it's called, which is not the song in Say Anything. Haha. But tragically, Wendy comes to the window and Token is in the window with her. Or, as they call him now, Tolkien. It's like a gut punch because the music, it like has like this instrumental part that like swells and it's like doo-doo-deen, dee-doo-deen, and it's like showing Wendy with Token leaving the window and Stan like heartbroken again with this boombox over his head. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. But this is the last straw. Stan is depressed. He's laying down in the gym locker room being like, there's no point to life. Everything is darkness. And then Kyle's like, I give up. You might as well go hang out with those goth kids. And then he's like, maybe I should. And so he goes up to the goth kids. And this is our first appearance of the goth kids. Yes. The goth kids give their little spiels. They each say why the world is terrible. And then Stan is like, well, if the world is just pain, then what's the point of living? And they're like, to make it worse for the nonconformists. And then Stan's like, okay, how do I join you? My thingy is flashing, so I'm sorry if the lighting's getting weird. The lights keep flickering. But anyway, Stan's like, okay, how do I get part of your group? And then they're like, to be one of the nonconformists, all you have to do is dress just like us and listen to the same music we do. He's like, okay. So then we have the reveal of Goth Stan. Perfect. Oh goodness. It makes my little 2016 Tumblr heart sing. If you were on Tumblr around that time. I don't know what it's like now. Should I worry? But if you were on Tumblr around 2016 to 2018, if you were on Tumblr in the 2010s, let's say, you were familiar with goth edits, punk edits, things like that, where like they take a cartoon or a person and they Photoshop them to have like piercings and band t-shirts and beanies. Those are fun. So pretty much that's what happens to Stan, and he looks so cool, I have to say. So now Goth Stan is hanging out with the Goth Kids. And in the meantime, Butters is falling for the Raisins girl, thinking like that they're in love, that they're dating. He's giving her little presents and she's having security escort her outside because he's, getting too attached. But he thinks that she's his girlfriend, and so he's spending all of his money on her. She's just like, I can't go out, but you can come see me at the restaurant. And he's like, oh, I will. And he keeps asking for advances on his allowance and keeps like getting more money to spend on her. Then his parents are like, what's this about? And he's like, I'm spending it on my girlfriend. And they're like, girlfriend? And they go to Raisins with him and see that it's like a Hooters and that he's being tricked out of his money a little bit. Like he doesn't know that that their whole job is to make you feel special. Like he thinks it's like special treatment, and they have to explain to him that no, these girls know that they get more tips if they flirt, so that's why they're flirting. And she's like, yeah, we are not boyfriend and girlfriend. And Butters is heartbroken. This was his first love that he thought he had, and it wasn't real at all. And he's crying in the gutter. Stan approaches him with the Goth Kids and is like, what's wrong? He loses his goth voice for a second. And he's like, Butters? They're like, well, you can join us if you want. And he's like, no, I love life. And he gives a cute little speech about how beautiful life is and how it comes with ups and downs and happiness and sadness. But that doesn't mean it's not worth living.
But at the same time, I'm really happy that something can make me feel that sad. It's like, it makes me feel alive, you know? It makes me feel human. The only way I can feel this sad now is if I felt something really good before. So I have to take the bad with the good. So I guess what I'm feeling is like a beautiful sadness.
Then he kind of closes it in kind of a tacky, misogynistic, homophobic way, which I don't like. I think maybe there's a spooky storm coming. But anyway, he punctuates it in like a mean, homophobic, misogynistic way, which I'm... What a waste. It inspires Stan to leave the Goth Kids and move on with his life. He returns to his old self, sees Wendy, tells her that it sucks, sees Token, tells him that he sucks, and goes back to playing football. And it's kind of just like a really nice little story about, wow, is the power going to come back on? Let's see. Please let it come back on. Should I just pause it? Spooky. Give me a minute. Dad kind of snaps Stan out of it, realizing that you don't have to wallow in sadness just because something bad happens. And he goes back to playing football. And it's just like a cyclical kind of begin and end in the same spot to show the passage of time and moving on. And it's like sympathetic to being sad. It's sympathetic to getting your hopes up and dashed. You know, that it's part of life. And it's kind of nice. And also, it's just a beautiful, like, it's such a uniquely shot episode where they pull from rom-coms and things like that, which they often don't do. It's just a very stylized episode, which is makes it so unique and fun. The speech that Butters gave definitely spoke to my little depressed teenage heart when I first watched it. I would like listen to that. I'm like, yeah, beautiful sadness. And then I'd draw crying eyes. I'm not gonna beat the angsty allegations, I guess. 2016 Tumblr had a bit of a problem of romanticizing depression. And I think like this episode definitely touches on that, but also gives like a solution and perspective. I don't completely agree at this point with Butter's speech, I don't think. Because I think sometimes being sad doesn't have to be beautiful. Sometimes you're just sad. I think it's very human and very beautiful in the sense that you cared so much about something that you have to grieve it to move on, that it pains you to leave, it pains you to give it up, real or imagined. I think that is very beautiful. But I think it's a little bit of a, don't come at me, but I think it's a little bit of a misplaced speech because he imagined the whole relationship and he was like, the only reason I could be this sad is if I had something really good before, you know? And it's like, well, you didn't have it, you imagined it. And I think it's very interesting and very beautiful that humans can be so sad about something that they just imagined because they have the capacity to love that much, even if it's not reciprocated. I think that is kind of beautiful and part of life. And also extremely similar to the speech that the dad gives at the end of Call Me By Your Name, but much more succinct. So yeah, there you go. That was the episode Raisins. I love it. It's for the Tumblr girlies. Okay. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.